Support for this podcast is brought to you by
Bridge Credit Solutions.
Once again, they're still with us. Can you imagine? They're still putting up with our shenanigans. Shout out to Bridge Credit Solutions for sticking with us. You know,
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, thank you. But in order to really thank them, reach out to them. Hit the link in our description or show notes. What is Bridge Credit Solutions? Guys, if you have a credit issue, and everybody has credit, and it might not be great credit.
Yeah, it may or may not be great credit, but check it out with Bridge Credit Solutions, right?
Because you don't want to run into any issues with your credit. So go ahead, hit that link, and find out how Bridge Credit Solutions can help you attain financial freedom. Go walk around with a little bit more lightness.
Yeah. Bridge Credit Solutions.
And support for this podcast is brought to you by Chayenu. Guys, the free pamphlet for 3 months, free trial. This is the pamphlet that is heard around the world.
Someone asked if the trial works in Israel, I think.
Maybe.
I don't think it's geographically restricted.
I don't think so, too. But all I know is they have tens of thousands of people that are signed up each week. They're learning with Chayenu. This is not Stam. This is not regular. This is Mashiach-style vibes over here. That's what Chayenu is trying to do. So go ahead, hit the chayenu.org/trial and get 3 months free. You get access to their app, and you get mailed twice a month this Chayenu booklet, which has Parsha, it has obviously the Chumash, it has Rambam, it has Tanya, it has Tehillim. This is a daily Torah study companion.
Yeah.
And there's so much in here. Each week you can walk around with. You know, you can roll it up even like a little spiral. This is so helpful. I have them.
A lot of walking. People are doing a lot of walking, apparently.
Yeah.
Walking around with good credit, walking around with the Chayenu.
Yeah, walking is pretty popular nowadays.
Just have all of the things that we're advertising.
Yeah, so walk with Chayenu, walk with Bridge Credit, and you'll be in good hands. That's chayenu.org/trial. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, then stop. But if you do like it, then continue. This week's episode, we're so excited because we sat down with Yisroel Besser.
Yisroel Besser.
The name on so many books, so many of your favorite books, your bestsellers that you've read, maybe Just Love Them, or the book about Moshe Reichman, or
Meir Zlotowitz.
Or
we recorded the episode on Rev Meir Zlotowitz's yard site.
Literally,
which is pretty cool.
And also, like, a few people's yard site. It was very interesting. It was Meir Zlotowitz's yard site. It was also Malki Klein's yard site, who he wrote a big piece of Mishpacha about. It was also the day after my Trank's yard site.
Wow.
And he wrote the book Just Love Them. I think it was the day after. I'm not sure. But there's so much more to Yisroel. We discussed so many different topics, from living in the middle of nowhere out of town. I'm kidding, Montreal. You're not middle of nowhere. People love you. They say amazing things about you. But living out of town, to the makeup of the From Media world. Yisroel is involved in this new initiative. It's really, really great. And we discuss all that. So
don't try calling him either.
Yeah, don't try calling him. You get the voicemail. And if you leave a voicemail, he probably won't call you back. So just if you see him, get him into a headlock and then talk to him. Anyways, guys, thanks for sticking with us through this whole intro, and enjoy this episode. You are listening to the Meaningful People Podcast.
The podcast featuring our nation's most impactful, influential,
and meaningful people. This has been a long time in the works.
In the making.
A long time. It is a long time. But I always said it's going to happen one day.
You always said it was going to happen.
I live in like this world of like, it doesn't, especially when I'm in New York, it's just never ending.
You're from Montreal.
Well, no, this is not live. Right?
Oh, it's so live. That's Nachi's Inyan. He goes live incognito.
It's very nice. There's a lot of, it's like a mashal with a lot of nimshals, what you just did to me. Yeah.
Yeah, let me hear.
What would be the nimshal to that type of thing?
Yeah.
That people don't think that things count. They think that it just doesn't make a difference. And everything, you're live. You're always live. You are always live. And everything reverberates and makes a difference.
Wow. That you only took 58 seconds to get to that boom. Like,
no, it's the truth. The Yid lives. You don't realize that. But you put on tefillin, not even thinking about it. And you're live. The cameras, the lights.
It's amazing.
We're live.
It's very exciting.
One second. I'm very self-conscious because my phone.
You mamish just went live. I never did the same in my life. It's like
a
dirty trick. I'm sitting with titches in my head. And oh, we're live. You don't say welcome or nothing. You're just also alive.
Listen, everyone.
At what point?
It's not a
point? What was the last thing that I shouldn't have said before we went live?
Well, you really want to discuss it here?
No.
We rarely have to edit.
Yeah, really. Anyways, I want to start off by discussing. First of all, Yisroel Besser, thank you so much for coming.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Why do you live in Montreal? Like, you're here a lot. You come to America a lot. You ever think, hey, let me just move. Let me just move to Muncie or move to Tom's River and join.
Muncie, Tom's River, that's where you peg me.
I love how 5 towns didn't even get in the running.
What did you drive here?
I drove, it says, you could see it. It's a Honda Odyssey 2019.
Okay, that's
As
why
a
it's on the 5
bank.
counts. 2019?
It has a Just Love Them sticker, too,
okay.
at least. Baruch Hashem, I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's with Montreal? Tell us. Not
grew
that
up-
I
was
have
born
anything
in
against it.
Montreal. My
What?
parents lived in Montreal.
Yeah.
I grew up in Montreal. And my parents don't live there subsequently, actually. When my grandfather, Yisroel Besser, on the west side passed away, my father became the Rev in his shul. My parents moved. But I got married. I lived in Eretz, I was in Kyle. And I went back to learn in Kyle in Montreal because my Rebbe was opening it without thinking that I'm going to live there long term. But it was a chance to a few more years in Kyle. But my Rebbe was nice. And you'll hear this from, I'm sure, from a lot of out-of-town people. You fall in love and you can't leave. It's a certain style and pace and culture that it's very hard to sit here when most of your Hadas Chareidis lives in the tri-state area and say you guys are all out to lunch. So I'm going to think of a nice way to say it, but you guys are all out to lunch. You're missing the boat.
Mom was an out-of-towner.
I am,
Where are you from?
Proud, from Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Is that
so Los Angeles is cool out of town. It's not never.
Oh.
There's different, it's very hard. It goes like this. My kids say there's Los Angeles, Toronto, Chicago is the top of the out of town totem pole.
How do you not have Baltimore in there?
No,
the top
starting
of the totem pole.
Oh, okay.
No, like a kid comes to campus from LA, Chicago. Okay, maybe, right? Okay, maybe you own like 1 million nursing homes, so I'll be mechabed you for a little bit till I know more, right? And then it goes down. We don't have to say down. Montreal is like no, I'm kidding. But you understand that when you go up out of town, there's a culture and a vibe. I wouldn't even say Midos because there's so many nice people in New York and in Lakewood and in Muncie. It's nothing to do with Midos. It's a lack of anxiety is probably the right word for it. That means you start your. Why are we going negative?
We're not negative.
It's just very hard to live in town. You start your day from the second of worrying about, am I going to get to school? I'm going to find the parking spot. And if I do, am I going to have the right car? And I'm going to have the right shoes when I get out of my car? You're going into shul out of town. You're going to be davening with 9 other Yidden. Some will have hats. Some won't have hats. Some will look like you. Some won't look like you. Your kid's class is going to be made up of this homogeneous group of people from such varying degrees. It's such a rich and such a deep experience in Yiddishkeit to grow up that way. There's not that many schools. They're happy with any kid who wants to come to the school and more or less buys into it. You make a difference. Everybody who lives in the community. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. It was once, many years ago, not long after I lived in Montreal. A friend of ours in the Kyle, Rahman al-Islan, not on any, he lost a child, a baby. So we were his friends. We walked down to the hospital on Yantif. His baby was still alive. It was Simchas Torah. We walked. It was like over an hour. We sat with him a little bit. The Matzah Simchas Torah, the baby lost her life. And the next day was the Levaya. So again, we went out. The young lad and Kyle went out to the Levaya and literally did things that people do at a Levaya. People were digging and helping. And in the car on the way back, one of my friends said, it's such a pity that Montreal doesn't have a branch of Misaskim. So my rabbi says, if Montreal had a branch of Misaskim, would you know that you are capable of doing what you just did in the last 3 hours? Would you know that you can say a hesped and counsel and grieve with somebody that way and physically help and do the things you'd never even know that? That means you discover things about yourself when you live in town because nobody else able to do that, including writing for that matter. I don't have to make myself the example, but I only write because I live out of town. Fact. I needed some money. I was in Kyle. Your guest and my mentor, Rabbi Pinchas Lipschitz, wanted a Montreal page in his Yated. It was $100 a week. I was in Kyle. It sounded like a nice thing. So it involved, excuse me.
Shirley sips a cup of coffee that Nachi made.
Yeah.
Fun fact for all our listeners, Nachi struggled a little bit with making the coffee, and he solicited my involvement, and that is because Nachi, in his lifetime, to date, has not yet consumed a cup of coffee.
I never had a coffee in my life.
In your life?
In my life.
Why did you decide to drop that bombshell on this episode? I'm just curious.
Because
I had to make a coffee.
Because you made a coffee.
We rarely have
I
coffee
was
on the
wondering
show
why you had a
at night.
coffee cup and there was 6 ounces, like a little nebby coffee. We're like some kind of Swiss airline type of coffee they bring me.
I figure from Montreal that I'm
Never had coffee in your life?
I never had coffee.
What is something you consider doing?
Is it something I consider doing?
Yeah, you open to drinking
So
coffee?
my wife tried, She tried, and she got the sugariest thing, and I just I took one sip, and I'm like, I can't.
What's the aversion? Where does the aversion come from?
I just don't like the taste. It's bitter.
You only know that when you have coffee.
First of all, you should know the weirder thing is I love the smell.
Surely we'll get him to have a cup of coffee, right?
I think when
You think
we should avoid it.
We want to be a positive influence.
Are we cutting it? Are we done? Are you turned off?
Because you didn't drink coffee? No. First of all, you're Lubavitcher. You don't have to drink coffee.
Just vodka.
There's other things that Lubavitcher need to do.
Chaim.
Other things that Hasidim need to drink. It doesn't have to be coffee.
It's funny. I want to mention, based on sort of what you were saying a little bit, about living out of town and how that opens up things and you can realize the talents that you had. I think it's the same Indian, the same Vart when it comes to camp. Is and I remember saying this, I went to camp for 15 years, Camp Monk, and everyone in this room went to Camp Monk for pretty extended period of time. There were the monkeys. Yeah. Wow. You know what? You know what's funny? People who didn't go to Camp Monk hate this podcast right now. Because there's nothing more than that people who didn't go to Camp Monk hate than guys who went to Camp Monk and went to room together.
Right, hate is a strong term, but it's definitely something that plays with their minds. It's true.
It is, right?
Yeah.
You went to Camp Monk.
I went there my whole life, and it was a very enriching experience in every way.
So you heard what I'm saying? That experience.
It was a magical place, and there was something done so right. It was camp done right in every way. Religiously, socially, responsibly, in terms of what you gave the parents and what you gave the boy, in terms of the chinuch, in terms of Shabbos, in terms of Tisha B'Av, in terms of every part of the culture.
Yeah. So
circus?
I'm not such a, maybe you saw from the way I walked up the steps. I'm not a guy who's made for circus so much. That's not my strength. But I wrote songs in Kalawa, good ones. I still sing them.
Starting to write in Camp Monk.
Starting to write.
Yeah.
Camp Monk's true.
You started writing.
This camp was a big part of writing. Yeah, it started a little earlier. There was Pirchei, like Pirchei all over the world. So this is another thing. We're talking about out of town. I think Pirchei in New York is not as exciting as it is out of town. Pirchei Shabbos groups. Pirchei is a Shabbos group type. I think it exists. I know that there's Pirchei in Monsey, but I don't think it's Montreal. It's life. Pirchei. It's minus 400 on Shabbos afternoon, and the kids are walking to Pirchei. And the one who inspired Pirchei in Montreal and founded the group, he's not around anymore. His name was Bob Abbott. He's a very special person. He was a balabas. He sold dry goods, T-shirts. An exceptional person, a big influence of mine. And he ran the Pirchei Shabbos groups. And the highlight of the year was the Siyum Mishnayos. Kids would come from other cities, from all over. It was a big event. Montreal Siyum Mishnayos. And there was yeshiva in Montreal. His name was Montreal Weinberg. Big tzaddik, a big Talmud Chacham. Chashav Yid. He passed away suddenly. He was 62 years old, and he had a heart attack, and he left this world. And I was 17, and he was like everything to me. I was 16. 17. And he was the first experience that we had ever had with losing somebody. Most of my friends, and we felt orphaned, literally. He was by Shachus in the morning, and by the time Shir came around, he wasn't alive.
Wow.
So the Siyum Mishnayos was in memory of him, and he had been a big motivator to all of us, and he had very, very supportive of Pirchei. And for Bacher and Yeshiva, like camp, it gave them, not everybody is made the same way, and some people needed that for their self-confidence, or they needed that outlet. He loved Pirchei, he got it. So it came time for the Siyum Mishnayos. They said, okay, we're going to make a video tribute to him. What song should we use? So I don't even know why I had the confidence to say it. I was at the end of the table. I was a kid. I was like, I could write a song. And I didn't want anybody to hear. I mean, I don't think I would have said it again. And Bob was one of these guys who just heard what he needed to hear. So he said, Shirley, you said something. Shirley's going to write a song. And that was it. And I was wishing I hadn't said it. And I was like, what am I going to write? And for the next 3 weeks, when you sit in shir and you're writing something else and you're looking up, when the Rebbe looks up, I was just writing this song all day, writing, you try to remember to write from right to left so it should look like you're writing what's going on in shir. I was just working on the song, on the yeshiva song. And it was successful. It was a moving song. People liked it. They connected with it. And I found that I was able to express something. In the summer in camp, it was the teams, and it was Camp Monk, and Kalawa was serious business, and the division of talents was serious business.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that varies in place.
It's serious.
Taken very seriously.
Serious enough for the president of Art School to leave Art School for a few days to be the judge.
To take off. He wasn't the president of Art School yet, but it's true. Right. So it was the president of Art School was busy with it. Who's going to write a song for this team, for that team? I had a close friend who today is one of the great motivators. Camp Monk has produced a tremendous amount of merchanchim, askanim, just superstars. Mm-hmm. You see that. So one of my closest friends from camp, and he's still one of my closest friends, his name is Penny Stern. and he's a therapist and a rabbi in Toronto today, and he's remarkable. So he knew that I'd written the song. So he went over to Gedalia. He says, "Surely can write."
That's a lot of it.
Gedalia's Loditz. And I said, "No, I really can't." So he says, "No, you wrote a song on his Rosh Yeshiva, and it was a big success this year. He told me he can do this." So Gedalia took me for a walk, and he says, "You could do it, and you have kaiches." Gedalia's Loditz, like you're saying at the time, I didn't associate him with art school or with writing. You know, I knew his father was Rabbi Meir Zlotowitz, who's I was actually today.
Like today.
And Gedalia said, you should try. So I said, okay, wherever that came from. Like I look back, I don't know why I would say yes to that type of thing. I wasn't super confident or super anything. But I wrote the song. It was a nice song, and it was a nice experience to write. I realized that I enjoyed conveying emotions in words. It was something that made me feel very good, and I thought that I was okay at it. And the song resonated with people. It was able to convey it was Shomer Shabbos, and it gave over a certain feeling. I hoped for what Shmir Shabbos should mean to people. So after that, I was already a writer.
That was 93, Shomer Shabbos.
93 it was?
That was my first year in camp.
Really?
Yeah.
That was my swan song. Okay, so I went out and started.
Shomer Shabbos Eile Regel.
Shomer Shabbos Eile Regel. And Shomer Shabbos won. And those were the songs. That was the year that I wrote all the songs. Every one of them. What year were you?
Shomer Shabbos.
Oh, God. You're welcome.
Wow,
Thank
look
you.
at this. Look at this.
So then I was already a writer. And like I said, and then it became, there wasn't much opportunity to write. I went to Eretz Yisrael, I went to learn. I was by David Soloveitchik, and I went to Mir. When I came to Lakewood, I started Shidduchim, people would come to me. They needed help writing cards for their kalas. It's a weird thing to say.
Gosh, that's interesting.
No, they were real. They didn't know how to write. They were like, how do you say, I'm so happy to have met you. It means so much. I'm looking forward to the future. We're not talking about your generic Hallmark stuff. It wasn't.
Parenthetically, Rabbi Tauber in L.A., who I went to, the Erev Shabbos of my Ofrav, and he gave me some advice. He said, people, when they want to say something nice, they have to go to the store and they have to buy a Hallmark card, or they have to go to Yisroel Besser and get some help to write something. He says, people never have to ask for help to say something not nice. For some reason, that comes
naturally.
Much more naturally. He said, you want to succeed in a relationship, let the nice things come naturally.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Put that in a book.
That's what you guys are doing all day. You're very lucky to do what you do. I'm serious.
What's that?
We need to talk to people and focus on their positives and their strength and what they give the Jewish people. It's a nice thing to do.
Sure.
Nice use of your time, even for a guy who doesn't drink coffee.
Sorry that I interrupted you.
No, this is great. This is, like I said, I'm more comfortable in that role. Actually, I like hearing these things. So I started to write a lot. It was really a favor for people, but again, so it was like a reputation. So when people know you're a writer, so could you help me with this? Could you help me with a letter? And then again, I got married. I went to Yisroel to Kyle. I didn't write anything. And then I sent in a submission to the Jewish Observer. It was the first piece I ever really wrote. I put like blood, sweat, and tears, and it was why people should lay off Bachram getting drunk on Purim. It was like the kind of thing that older Baal Batim didn't get at all. And if you go through the yeshiva system and you're around people who had serious winters months, you see that a lot of times there's a lot of not only productivity, there's a lot of growth in Purim, done the way they do it in yeshivas with Bachram drunk, and it's not always the prettiest sight, and nobody likes the sight of a 18-year-old kid vomiting near your shoes on the porch of somebody's house. But sometimes people have to access certain parts. You're Lubavitch, Nachi.
Yeah.
I'm quasi Lubavitch too.
You are.
And Lubavitch Chassidim believe they have to get drunk once a month. Why? Real Lubavitch Chassidim. Because they said that there's certain honest things that no one is going to ever tell each other. And when you're drunk, you have an easier time telling people what you'd call in yeshivas musar, but talk directly to people and honest conversations. And sometimes the alcohol allows that. Now, alcohol is alcohol used irresponsibly is obviously a terrible ill and a cause of a lot of danger and a lot of heartbreak in this world. Of course, we're not talking about free use of alcohol.
Like anything used irresponsibly.
Like anything used irresponsibly. But what I was trying to say in that article is that see the other side of the coin. There's a lot inside of Bacher, and any other day of the year would be wrong, of course. But that's what makes it right on this day. They rejected the piece. Not surprisingly, the Jewish Observer wasn't the kind of piece that they were looking for. I went to meet Rabbi Walpin in Eretz Yisrael, who I think now of his graciousness. Rabbi Nissen Walpin was the editor of the Jewish Observer. I was less than nobody. I was just a kid who hand wrote it and faxed it in. I was 23 or 24, living in Eretz Yisrael. He says, I'll be in Yerushalayim for a simcha. I'd like to meet you. So it was like a legend, the Jewish Observer. I was Jewish Observer and the Allgemeine Journal. What did we have growing up? So I went to meet him, Nissen Gordon. I went to meet Rabbi Walpin. He says, I want to tell you something. We're not going to take the piece. It's not an editorial, but you're a writer. You have it. You should write. I hope you'll write one day. I hope that there'll be opportunities for you to write. And that meant a lot to me. It's such a gracious thing to do. And so unnecessary for him to do that to me. He was sitting at his grandson's bar mitzvah. I try to remember that and just be nice to people.
That's really nice.
And find that room to say that, like you just said, to say something nice.
Yeah.
So I went back there, Montreal to Kyle. Like I was saying, Rabbi Lipschitz needed someone to write. I needed a little extra money. Came in helpful for sure. I don't know if I needed it. So I wrote these Montreal pages. I was walking around with the camera at the Avasu buttons, whatever people write. It's the same words, right? The overflow crowd was inspired by this, that type of thing. And Rabbi Lipschitz built me up a lot. He also gave me opportunities, tried to push me to write different kinds of things, taught me a lot about everything. He's one of my big mentors in how to have an opinion and not give in to noise of other people, to tune out the noise and really have convictions and use your pen in a constructive way.
In the years, most recently with Mishpacha Magazine, you've done a lot of editorials, op-eds. You've had quite a number of pieces that make noise, that maybe people don't always agree with the opinion you have, whether it's on yeshiva bachrim, whether it's on Jewish finances, whatever it may be. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I agree with a lot of things you say. I also disagree with some things you say. Just curious how you, as a writer, as a person, deal with that maybe sometimes pushback. When writing is an expression of the soul, and when you're putting your soul into something, then you're met with, a fierce pushback. What's that like?
You don't drink coffee. Does it offend you that I like coffee?
No, not at all.
It doesn't offend me that you don't drink coffee.
Facade. I was happy to make you one.
Facade. Nachi drops a facade, just like that. Casually drops a facade. Didn't see it coming. It doesn't offend me that you don't drink coffee. After all the jokes, I don't care. You don't like coffee. I do like coffee. It has nothing to do with who Nachi Gordon is to me. It doesn't even register. I don't expect people to agree with my opinions any more than just because I like Coke, they have to like Coke. Maybe they like Pepsi.
I think opinions. I think opinions are a little bit more than coffee is very superficial,
right?
But some people do. They say these opinions make up who they are.
Right. I'll tell you something funny. When you know somebody, when you go to shul and someone says something you don't like, very rarely does it put you in a very, very bad mood because you know the person. You know his wife, you know his kids, you know his life, you know his challenges, you know his situation, you know his miles, you know about the time he lent you money, gave you a boost, a nice word, whatever it is. You see so much more than the person. I would hope, when people get very angry or negative or nasty, I'm like, you don't know me and I don't know you. So I'm really, it's not that, I wouldn't say it's not that important because you have to listen to all criticism, especially, there were times that I was humbled. Mm-hmm. My first very controversial piece I ever wrote.
What was it about?
I was writing, I guess I was trying to be funny. It was 2017 or 16. My oldest daughter graduated. Actually, today she's a mother of two. And then she was graduating 11th grade. So what they did in the school it was a woman's only graduation. The men were behind the mechitza, right? It was called
Canada,
behind the mechitza.
They graduate after 11th grade.
Yeah, graduating 11th grade.
Right.
Is this for real?
Yeah.
There's no 12th grade?
No. You want to move?
They're ready.
You want to come?
I probably got to still wear a mask, though.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny. If I'm a guy from the 5 towns, take it slow. Stay in your lane, Gordon. But you do have to wear a mask. It's true. So I was sitting at the graduation. I'm like, so this is what women feel like always. Like it's hot. The women have the better food.
I remember this.
The air conditioning's coming down on them. We're sitting here. We could see shoes going by. They wanted the fathers to come just for their presentation of diplomas or something like that. So they had this, and I understand what they were thinking. They wanted to respect the fathers. It was a woman's program. Whatever, fine. So I wrote this I thought it was cute. It was called Behind the Mechitza. I was like, so this is what my wife feels like. So she comes to my son's bar mitzvah, that she put blood, sweat, and tears into raising the boy and getting him ready, and she could barely hear him laning and hear his prattle from through a thing. And then I ended off by saying, and I wasn't trying to be flippant, wow, you're made HaKadosh Baruch Hu called Kvuda Basbelach Pnima. He invested women that they don't have the needs that I need to be front row center. I need to see. I need to be in the action. I want to be part of this graduation. And my wife and my daughters go happily to shul or happily to events, and they take this. I never heard a word of complaint, ever. Ashreinu, that our women so graciously and so gracefully slide into their roles. That's what I said. And the feedback was fast and furious. Facebook was new to me. It was all new to me. the attacks on me. I remember there was a headline maybe in the Times of Israel somewhere, Besser is responsible for the deaths of women. Somebody wrote, because women don't go for screening for illnesses that they may have because they're worried about tznius, because they don't want to get those screenings. It's because of this thinking that people like Besser have, whatever, stuff like that. And people were sending it to me all day. And I saw legitimate hurt that they had been wrong, because there are people, women, who are uncomfortable with it. And they don't, just because my wife and my daughters are comfortable with their role behind the mechitza, and Baruch Hashem, they happen to be comfortable in their skin, as Baruch Hashem, as roshei u'bnei Yisrael. Not everybody, especially people who weren't raised in the frum community, and a lot of them became frum because they were drawn to spirituality, and they wanted to be a part of it for themselves, and then they became frum and they were relegated. So their hurt was very, like, I want to come to shul, and there's not even Ezras Nashim for them in Eretz Yisrael, especially. A lot of the shuls don't even have Ezras Nashims in the newer development towns that were working in trailers, and women would be. And I read these emails, and I felt terrible. And I apologized. I was like, it was tone deaf not to understand. I'm being flippant for my little guys but you're not only writing for yourself. If you're writing in a magazine like Mishpacha, which is the leading publication in Klal Yisrael in terms of numbers, in terms of scope, and in terms of the respect and agendas, you have to be careful and think that you can hurt people. So that was good for me, that feedback, in the sense that it really humbled me. Don't be so flippant. You're not sitting at Kiddush and Shul with your guys shooting off days, right? Yeah. Right, in a way that doesn't hurt people. So I try to remember that. So I've taken a lot of unpopular positions since then, but I don't think I've ever hurt people since then. I would hope that I never wrote anything hurtful to people.
Yeah, and that's certainly big of you to acknowledge when something might have been.
It was tone deaf. It was wrong. Woman. Not every woman was comfortable with it, and Hamish shuls, for lack of a better term, Charedi shuls, understood this. Rabbanim reached out to me. They're like, we have women in our shul, okay, and we have to find a way to make that Ezras more attractive and more spacious, and that they should be able to see and feel and be part of it, and don't take it for granted that every woman is like your wife.
Right, and that's, like I said, that's big of you to do that. I want to double click on Nachi's question in the sense that sometimes issues play out in the public arena where it's not a mistake that you're making. You're not being insensitive. You're just being unapologetic about a position that you're taking. And we want to have achdus within, Klal Yisrael is not all that big. And we want to have achdus, but you also want to speak your truth and you want to be passionate about what you believe. And how do you navigate that so gracefully?
I don't know that it's so graceful. I don't think anybody's ever called it gracefully. I think that I had and I'm proud. And if this is what's written on my matzeva after 120, Yisroel Besser, champion of yeshiva bachrim, I'll be proud. I will not have lived in vain. I think that yeshiva bachrim are a kicked around demographic. I think
I was gonna get there. You really are. I would put you up there as the defender of the yeshiva bachrim.
I appreciate it, because there's a misunderstanding of what yeshiva bachrim are and aren't. They're not meant to be a finished product. It's not. So you have this thing of you'll have. We go to shuls. You daven in regular Baal Bata shuls, as I do. And we know that people aren't always davening the way they should. And you'll see people talking, and people will come in and they'll come out. And two yeshiva guys will be talking about them. They're like, this is why you go to yeshiva? This is why they're jumping in. These kids are 19. Look around at secular America, at 19-year-old kids, at what they're busy with. Look at this kid who's been sitting in yeshiva all winter, breaking his head on taisus, and better days, worse days, harder days, easier days. I'm not saying that every seder goes so smooth, and not every kid does go so smooth for. But they're trying, by and large. They're really doing their best, and the yeshiva system is putting out beautiful products. And it's a crime to stop a kid mid-growth and say, you're not doing well.
It's like judging system. A child in the middle.
Exactly. It's like a plant. I was once sitting on Purim, going back to Purim again, and a kid was acting like a kid was drunk, and he was acting stupid. He was saying stupid things and insulting people. So somebody said, it's so embarrassing. There's nothing nice about a drunk teenager. So my rabbi was at the table. He says, there's something nice about a yeshiva bacha, and this is part of the process of a yeshiva bacha. So look at the flower that you're going to see growth. Don't look at the earth that's in the middle of crumbling and being the seed degenerating. Like you're saying, it's a process. So you need to have a lot of patience and a lot of belief. So I see my role sometimes as take it slow, and you're a Talmud of Rabbi Trank. Yeah. I've become a Talmud of Rabbi Trank. Rabbi Trank had this long ball vision of being able to see things that took years and sometimes decades till it came to full fruition. And it's a thing that parents for sure have to know. You need a lot of patience. And if you're going to catch your kids by the bad days and the bad mistakes, so there's a world that doesn't love the yeshiva system. world in our own community.
Yeah.
So I'm all for achtas, but they deserve equal and fair. Don't be so quick to. So I know that those pieces sometimes annoy people. I'm grateful to Mishpacha that they take the heat from me. That they let me have this podium, and I hope that they'll continue to allow me to speak what I see as the truth.
Do you think, though, that although we do have to allow the flower to bloom, and we have to allow the cholent, love the cholent mashal, by the way.
Thank you.
We have to allow all of those processes to develop, but can we acknowledge at least that the yeshiva bacher does carry a certain responsibility?
Held to a higher standard.
They are held to a higher standard.
You think for one second that the Rebbes and yeshivas are not telling that to them? But it's not the place of anybody in a public forum to bash yeshiva bacherim for no reason. It's wanton. It's a drive-by attack. It's an ambush because you want likes from your... That means if you... I think those yeshivas are aware of this. I think every bacher in any mainstream yeshiva is being told before it goes to Mitzvah, remember that you have to set an example. Remember who you are. Remember that people look at you and they're deciding if they should send their kids to yeshiva and what they want their kids to be like and who they want their daughters to marry. I think that the bacherim are told that all the time. I think people are working hard. I also think the yeshiva system has changed in a million ways in the last 5 years alone, and it's become a place. It's become the system has become wider, not narrow in a certain way. They're allowing certain things. The bacherim have more konzatzes and more. It's more farbrengens going on in Litvish yeshivas than you would have seen 5 or 10 years ago, because I understand that bacherim need those outlets, and they're working with them. The rosh yeshiva, by and large, doing a heroic job. I don't have to tell them how to do their job. So I'm sure you're right, but they know that too. They're in the business.
Right.
It's tricky. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm scared to talk.
Why?
I don't know. Let's just have this
It's
conversation.
your show. Sure.
I just feel like you're right. Yeshiva bacherim are what's keeping this this world afloat. They're learning and their dedication to Torah learning and everything. But I think that the bone to pick that people may have is, let's say during that Bein Hazman, and when that yeshiva bacher who is a certain way during the Zman, and then it's Bein Hazmanim and he's completely not that anymore, and you did write a piece sort of addressing this. I think your opinion maybe was, well, just give him a free pass.
Well, it wasn't the opinion so much. Let me ask you this question: imagine a gentleman who's he's a lawyer, does very nicely, he gives generous tzedakah, and he gets shishi and gets mafta yain, and he's guest of honor at the yeshiva dinner, and you get up and applaud for him.
We're talking about rechness now.
No, we're talking about your average guy in every in any from community. You have such people, and we look up to those people, and we stand up. We say, "Oh, whenever we see them, he gives tremendous tzedakah. He gives time." Imagine this guy, this hypothetical gentleman in your head. Okay, for whatever reason, you're on vacation in Turks and Caicos, wherever you are. I don't care. You're in the Bahamas on vacation, and you see him, and he doesn't look like the same guy. He's not acting like the same guy. He's not dressed like the same guy. He's not conducting himself with the same guy. Maybe even he's not extra zealous in what he's wearing or what he's eating. Would you say that, hey, come on, I'm not clapping for you by the next dinner. Everything you do is forget it. This is not who you are. Why are yeshiva bacherim expected to be exactly the same balabatim who are judging them are also not themselves when they're on vacation? So why is their vacation different than your vacation? We all have to be elevated all the time. That's A. B is they're doing the hardest thing in the world. Sweating on a blot Gemara is the hardest thing in the world. Many of them love it. Many of them will love it. Many of them won't love it till they're later in life. And those years of pushing themselves when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, I don't think it's a secret. I can say it on myself. I learned the Kail for 7 years. I don't think I ever loved learning until well after my chasna. Didn't happen for me. I was a bacher by David Soloveitchik. It's a pretty good yeshiva. I was learning to be star a day, working hard. I went to Lakewood. I learned good. I can't tell you I love learning. I can't tell you I look forward to Seder ever. And one day, about 2-3 years after my chasna, I was like, okay, I could do this. I enjoy this. It took a long time. If somebody would have given up on me, I left David Soloveitchik, went to Rabbi Elephant in the mirror. It wasn't a thing that a lot of people did at that time, because I felt that I needed a Rebbe who would understand maybe more where I was coming from. And he gave me he helped me a lot.
Rabbi Elephant.
Yeah, he reintroduced me to the Gemara in a way that worked better for me. And thank God for that. Thank God for that. He put me on a different path. Not that David Soloveitchik's path. I think Brisk is working well with or without Yisroel Besser as their successful alumni, as their alumnus of the year. But my point is, there were so many people that I listened to today. I was like, you would have given up on me. Because I was probably outside, lingering outside. I wasn't running to be the first guy. If my chavusa had a headache one day, I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't like down for him to get better that minute. I was fine with the extra time. And it took me a while. And Baruch Hashem, my connection to the Gemara is alive and well today. But it took me longer. That's, I think, the experience of most people in this beautiful system, in the yeshiva system. So you're jumping on them on this bad day. You never had a bad day. The balabatim who are judging them never had an off moment. I have another question. I sometimes think to myself, you mentioned how people talk to their spouses. If I hear a guy in the pizza shop talking to his wife in a not nice way, in my head, he has a bad marriage. He's miserable. I'll never be mashadach with him. He's a disaster, right? I never talked to my wife that way. I certainly did. I certainly talked to my wife in exactly the same tone of voice, but I know my marriage and Baruch Hashem, where it's at. So I don't judge myself by that thing, right? So if I would hear a guy telling his wife, why ask me that? Whatever people say when they're in their worst moments, I'm sure that in my 23 years of marriage, I did the exact same thing. And if somebody would have heard me, they'd be wrong. So why am I right to think that about him? It's like that with everything in life. So why are Bachram different? You're catching him. He's 19. Read up on the levels, on what happens inside the anatomy, the biology of a 19-year-old boy. Look at college campuses. Look at their ability to make judgment. They have no sense of judgment. Teenagers, you guys are younger than me. But I have teenage children. Their judgment is completely impaired. They're not thinking the way adults think.
Shout out to the Besser children.
Shout out to Baruch Hashem, the remarkable Besser children. They're really, Hashem, they're great. They're teenagers. They don't. Right. We have kids who are deciding, by and large, to commit themselves to yeshiva, to try, to want, to wish. Listen to what's inside of them. And you see it. And look at the end product again.
I hear you. We'll be right back to this.
Right back
to this episode. I've been driving a lot lately.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And summer drives?
Oh, the summer drives, stuck in the Bell Parkway, stuck. And everywhere, it's so interesting because everywhere I drive, I look up and I see a Touro University billboard.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. A lot of reflection also while you're driving, thinking like, what do I want to do? It's the summer right now.
You ever look out the window while you're driving and think you're in a music video?
I try to look through the windshield just to stay focused on the road.
Oh, yeah? That's what you do?
But if the traffic's like super heavy, then I'll look out the window, yeah.
Maybe that's why my car insurance is so high, you're saying? Because I'm just like driving and I'm thinking I'm like in a Morty Shat music video, like one of those slow songs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm one in a million. You just
that's his beat, signature beat.
That's right.
Yeah, dude.
Anyways, I'm always looking up and seeing Touro University, and then I do some reflection in my heart, and I feel Touro University because they are the optimal. They are the primary choice when it comes to university for Jewish people. That is the place you want to go to. They are there for you. They have such,
and they have more.
Yeah, they have more. They offer more. They are more. They have more. They offer such academic excellence. There's such a, anyone who's made it, go over to them and say, hey, where'd you go to college? And maybe they'll say Harvard, or they'll say Touro University.
They'll probably say Touro University.
They'll probably say Touro University. There's so many people who have attained so much success starting at Touro, and that could be you. And it doesn't matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter how many kids you have, and it doesn't matter if you're married or not married. It doesn't matter. We've spoken about so many people who have taken their lives, who have 5 kids, 3 kids, just got married, and said, hey, you know what? I want to go into social work. I want to go into medicine. I want to be a dentist. I want to do this. It all starts by taking this first step at the Touro.edu/more.
Touro.edu/more.
And find out what they can do for you. And I just stole UPS's slogan. Are they going to sue me?
Is that what they say?
What can Brown do for you?
Interesting.
What can Touro do for you? Sue me. Back to this episode.
I love the framework, though, that you started it, the debate, where you said when you know the guy in shul, right? So the thing that occurs, or even in your pizza shop example, it occurs within the context of your relationship with that person. And you're much more willing to accept that person's position and to hear it and to process it within the context of your relationship with that person. I think if there's something that our listeners can take away from this is, whether you see eye to eye on the particular role of the yeshiva bacher within our ecosystem and whether you're inclined to judge that bacher any more or less than the guy on vacation, let's all join the framework of we might not know each other that well, right? And our opinions are coming from a very good place. It's coming from an educated place. We could disagree, right?
Nuance.
Yeah, there's nuance. And for example, in today's political environment, every argument comes from a place of animosity.
Right.
And I think it's super important that we not evolve on
We're
that
family.
spectrum.
We can't. I have to say one more thing, sorry,
Yeah,
because you just
go for
reminded me
it.
of such a beautiful thing of your Rebbe Trank. This is personal. I was having a very hard time with one of my kids one day. I had heard something from one of the Rebbeim. It was here in New York working. It was someone. The Rebbe's had said something that was very frightening to me as a parent. I called my wife. I said, the Rebbe said this. She says, oh, I heard that also. I said, I can't talk. I'm running into an interview. I'm late, which happens a lot of times, you know, you're parenting and work,
Yeah.
and it's tense. I said, okay, deal with it. I'll be out of this interview in 2 hours, and I'm going to 2 hours. I'm going to call you. The interview was with Rabbi Zevi Trank about David Trank. It was for the book, and I tried to put this what was concerning me about my child, irrelevant if it was a boy child or a girl child. No one has to know which one of them it was, and okay, with my son, and it was
I kicked you under the table. I didn't mean it.
and I'm going to deal with it when I come out. Zevi Trank says to me the craziest thing. It was Hashem sending me a message. He says, my brother David was not a musical person. He was in the car often. He lived in Adelphia. He went to the mikveh in Lakewood every morning to start his day, and then to Gelbstein's Bakery and back to Adelphia. He visited their mother in Brooklyn all the time. He said he was always in his car. Adelphia is neither here nor there. He was always in his car. What do you do in his car? Didn't listen to music. Definitely wasn't listening to Mike and the Mad Dog. What was he doing? So he listened to a tape. What tape? A shir. Who? Matzio Solomon. Which shmooze? The same shmooze, always. Which shmooze? 20 seconds of that shmooze. Again and again and again. He would listen, he'd rewind, and he'd listen to it again. Rewind again. 20 seconds of Matzio song. He said, by my estimation, he heard it over thousands of times. He would listen to these words until they were, what are they? So he plays it for me. Matzio is in the middle of a shmooze. He says, was willst du von den Kindern? What do you want from your children? When you were their age, you were doing the same things. That's the whole shmooze. Rabbi Trank would stop. What do you want from your kids when you were their age? And I thought about this thing that I was going through with my son. I promise you not, I did the same thing 100 times worse than that thing that the Rebbe told me about him was true about me at that age. I was like, I'm okay with myself. So I have to see that picture that Rabbi Trank just told me. So I called my wife. I was like, Rick, it's going to be okay. We got this. It's
Wow.
It's going to be fine. And Baruch Hashem, good boy. Taka worked out, like many things do. But going back to this question, we have to train ourselves to remember ourselves and not to isolate that incident. And do you know what he did? I saw Yeshiva Bacha throw a coffee out of his window. If it was my son, I wouldn't go crazy from that either. Right? We're family. We have to. The whole dialogue in for media. There's a whole other conversation. If you want to have it, I'd love to. Talking about American politics, right? So abortion, Roe versus Wade. You know that people are coming with the knives on both sides, and everyone is so indignant and angry and ready to go to war. It's like a civil war. The discourse. We can't let that happen in the frum community. If your dreams are not that your daughter should marry a yeshiva guy, I think that's your right. It doesn't say in the Torah that your son has to marry a guy who's a yeshiva graduate. But be a little understanding of the beauty of the system.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
No, I totally agree with you. And I kind of, you used to be active on social media. You used to be active on Facebook, on Twitter. And I get the feeling that, a combination of what we've been talking about so far maybe led to a reason why you left social media.
Facebook I left because it was boring.
Well, everyone left Facebook.
Everyone left Facebook, oh yeah?
Facebook's not a thing anymore, really.
Okay, there we go.
Unless you're like a bubby and you want to keep, I don't know. I'm going to get killed for saying that.
Okay, well, they're sending you things that you should know that Obama's really a Muslim.
Exactly.
That type of thing. Forwarded from 90.
Or they're going to overturn the election and still.
Okay. I love Twitter. I enjoyed it very much. And for those years, I think I had a very good number of followers. I was one of
You did well.
I loved it. I loved the engagement. I thought it was a responsibility of mine to
have the Haredi
to be there and to be strong and to explain my position and to engage with readers. They have a right. If I want them to invest in time and money in buying the magazine and reading what I think, then don't I owe to them the same courtity? I'm not.
It's like Shark Tank. Twitter is.
I'm definitely.
How is it like Shark Tank?
Not like the show.
He means
it's like a
Shark
tank of
Tank.
sharks.
Okay.
A Shark Tank, right?
Yeah, not like Mark Cuban. Calm down over here. But it's like it's not every opinion is always so safe.
I think what I realize is that one of the most active people on Twitter once wrote to me a personal email about so whatever the issue was. So I said, if they would take care of this one issue in Mishpacha, then I was very much involved in Mishpacha. Would you love Mishpacha? You wouldn't. You don't really want us to succeed. So your criticism is not coming from a place of friendliness. It's a place of you don't really love Haredi media in general. And so 99% of the people who are reading this magazine like it the way it is. And if they don't like it, there's other things they don't like about it. It's not this. So I'm giving these voices on Twitter who are so much less than 1% or whatever number you're going to say of the people that have so much space in my brain that I'm cheating the other 99.9% of the readers who I should be engaging with by writing in a way to please them. I can't do that to my brain. So that's
why you
really,
left.
Yeah, pretty much.
How's your life been since?
The same. I found other things to waste time with. It's not, I'm a new person. Without Twitter in my life, I do the daf.
No, but it keeps your audience, it keeps your engagement with an audience that cares about your message.
Right.
I try to answer every email from any reader anytime. It's really at mishpacha.com. It's not a secret, it's in the magazine. And I answer people all the time whenever I can. I try my best to be engaged. People are interested in respectful dialogue.
Pivoting a little bit, you had said in passing about the Rabbi Trink book that you had written, Just Love Them. His yard site was recently, and Meir Zlotow's yard site was today. And you have written a tremendous amount, producing volume after volume for Art Scroll, maybe for Feldheim. I don't know. You maybe have written more words than I've spoken in my life. Like, how do you have, I guess, the work ethic or the discipline to sit down and pump out, or even the time to pump out so many books in such short time? Also,
I wish it was. I wish I had a work ethic of any ethic would be nice. But I appreciate the question because it gives me an opportunity to say something. I lost a lot of friends over the years because what happens is if you're mildly ADHD like I am, for real, my wife doesn't love when I say that, but it's the truth. It's hard for me to sit and focus. What happens is you sit at a computer and you say you have a blank thing and I have to write X amount of words. I got to get this chapter out, and you have all your files ready and you start to pound at work. One guy sends you a text or one guy calls you on the phone and he says, I just need you for 1 minute. Do I make a right or a left to get to Starbucks? It's not just a minute because you're gone. Starbucks, right, left, Nachi Gordon.
Hasn't drinking a coffee ever. Yeah,
right, exactly. He hasn't drinking a coffee. He has drinking a coffee. Is he
also,
just...
you're judging him for not having a GPS.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
It's a lot going on.
Right. It was just an example, of course. But right. I'm not. I'm not your internet guy. Right. If you don't want internet, go make a left. Good luck. Good luck with your Starbucks. Right. No. But what happened? That's what happens to the mind of a person who's a creative, jumpy guy like I am. So you're gone. So you just get out of it. So I stopped talking on the phone. I don't talk on the phone.
Your mom, you don't
talk to my parents every day. I show my kids whenever they call.
Every day.
I call my parents every day. Sure.
Every single day.
Yeah.
That's special. No,
that's special. They're my parents. I love them. I don't think it's something to celebrate. I think it's pasha.
I think it's a lesson to keep it up.
This is the first time I find myself disagreeing with you. I think that
it's not.
I think that a Jew has to call their parents every day. I don't even think it's a question. Every day, of course, you have to call your parents every day. If you can, if you're in the same time zone, but you don't have 3 minutes to say hi, Ma, how are you? You gotta do it.
I hear you.
No, I don't mean you. I'm not here to preach.
No, I feel you.
I think in theory it's an ideal that people.
I think it's really just challenge Nachi to call his mother right after this episode.
I don't want to wake anybody up.
You can start tomorrow. I think that okay, you'll get it when you have married children like I do. You'll see how good it feels.
No, I hear you.
So I speak to my parents on the phone all the time, daily, and I speak to my kids, but I don't do a lot of social.
I called you a couple weeks ago. You answered.
I took a couple of texts. Could you pick up? No, maybe not. You're not recording.
Should I out you?
You could out me. You're also kind, right?
No.
You're not kind?
Nope.
Just a little babacher?
Just a little babacher.
That's a good Zainical. Maybe
not
outside maybe I didn't know who it was.
Not even a Levi.
Maybe I sound like a 5 times number, so I felt like so excited.
Is you answered the phone. You said, Nachi, I told you I don't do phone calls.
That's what I said?
Yeah. That's what you said.
What an abrasive guy.
But you lost friends because you're focused on a mission.
I can't do it. So I go into my cellar and I work in my basement. And I don't pick up the phone all day. So when I come up at 6 o'clock, I want to talk to my wife and kids. It's supper. It's things. And I don't want to learn. I want to learn. So I don't want to talk to people. So it hurt me a lot, and people are very upset. Right? The older generation doesn't get this at all. I say if it's important, people often get emails. Hi, can we schedule a talk? My name is so and so. I want to talk to you. And they say, sounds like a jerk. I don't talk on the phone. So I say, would it be possible to email whatever it is? And I feel like an idiot. They're like, you're not a mensch, my generation. You don't know how to talk. Of course, I know how to talk. Just I don't have time to talk to you. I don't have time. Would you understand it if I was an actuary or a lawyer? You would understand that I'm in office hours. Because I'm a writer, you don't get that? Because you think it should happen at a different time? This is the only way I can put out what I put out. Baruch Hashem, no credit to me. If anybody gets credit, it's my wife. Because I just focus on what I do. Baruch Hashem, she does really everything in my life to the point that the people who know us well know that this is true. Everything in my life she takes care of. I can't. Right. If I'm going to pick up your phone call, and I know that you have very important ideas and you think that the yeshiva should know or the things should know or the world should know and everyone, and this is going to change the world and it's right. And I know it sounds arrogant to say I don't talk on the phone. It's the only way I could get it done. The New York Times has this thing called, I think it's called The Cut, How do you get it done, where they ask writers. And nobody has ever said this answer before. I don't know if it's because nobody ever thought of it or because they're embarrassed to admit it. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I don't talk on the phone. I don't do phone calls. I can't.
I feel you.
You can text. I have friends in shul. I schmooze. I stand after mincha like everybody else, and I schmooze around. I'm not an antisocial person. These are people who are already my friends. I know them. I'm not.
You're entitled not to answer your phone,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
No, we're just because I think we're good friends. I think we just became good friends. But I think we're good friends.
Became really good friends.
Really?
You and I, yeah.
I saw a debate.
I think we're good friends, but I'm not going to be able to write books if I'm going to do that. And then I won't be able to feed my family because that's what I do for a living. And B is there won't be books. There won't be books. There'll be other great.
We won't be able
books.
to maintain our friendship unless I come to your Mishpacha Magazine in Montreal. Though.
There's other ways to do it.
Write an email.
I have WhatsApp and we WhatsApp.
Oh, that's the thing that I don't have. No coffee, no phone.
You should never apologize.
Yeah, Momo doesn't have WhatsApp.
Thing, and I think I would like to think I'm headed there. No, social because it also ends up costing. But the amount of WhatsApp over a phone call is at night. I can listen to all the voice notes and I answer to the ones as much as I'm able to. 2 times speed it was a game changer for me. Also,
saved the years.
I'm saying I think I think we're friends and we're gonna be friends. I can't do it. I can't talk on the phone. It pulls me away, and then I can't do the things I have to do.
Speaking about the things that you have to do, I want to, because of the books you've written, which some would say that they should be known as sarm, because of the wisdom and the gems inside of it.
The people I wrote about. I mean, I was about starting from the beginning. We're talking about biographies of Shia LaCaster, Shlomo Freifeld. Every one of those books. Mm-hmm. I was lucky in my subjects. It's not being better or worse than anybody else. The bunch will keep sending me these people.
I heard you say that you consider yourself a Talmud of David Trink. I assume that's from taking on the project. Can you bring our listeners into a little bit of that process? What that looks like? You get the personality.
My kids have this. You get the Shabbos table. They're like, okay, who's Tati the Shabbos? I go to now to David Feinstein. Before that, it was my Shirayim.
You're working on a book.
I know David Feinstein now for the last. I'm completely. But I was doing my Shirayim before that.
Right.
Now, if my Shirayim and David Feinstein in an elevator, it would have been very quiet.
So listen, now you're learning all day, but when you were working on the book of Moshe Reichman, you were just making millions.
For sure.
Giving out millions.
Not that, not that, I could tell you. But I could tell you that I try my best to be completely captured and captivated and hostage to the person I'm writing about. I'll do anything for another clip, a little more audio, anything I could to understand the person. That's nothing to do with me. If you're writing a book on a person, you have to be able to do that. So I become, in the process, Talmidim. I wish I could say I'm really a Talmud that it changed me, but I would like to think that somewhat it changed the way I look at things, at least every book. That's why it's the best job in the world.
What's like the impact it has on you? Because even as like a reader of your stuff, it impacts me, and I think the reason why your books are so successful, for example, Just Love Them, or the book on Meir Zlotowitz, I think one of the reasons it's so successful because it makes people feel something. And it does.
Meir Zlotowitz, you know what Meir Zlotowitz did to me? Meir Zlotowitz wouldn't drive. He lived in Brooklyn. His father lived in Brooklyn, his parents. He wouldn't drive home on his parents' block if he couldn't visit them. He said it's a lack of kibbud avayim to drive by your parents' house and not go in. So if there was traffic, took on East 8th, East 7th, whatever the street it was, he wouldn't go that way. Because how do you drive by your parents' house and not go in? Wow. So I would think to myself, I'm very often in New York for work. My parents live here now. I'm not going to go sometimes when I'm finishing the day, I'm in Rahway a lot by art school. Mishpacha's office was in Brooklyn. If I'm in New Jersey, my parents are in Passaic. I'm not going to go there if I can't go visit my parents. That's you're talking about kibbud aveim before, because he made me realize how I never thought of that level of sensitivity. You can't. But if you knew that Chaim Kanievsky was sitting and thinking, you wouldn't go, and you were stepping out to go to Mincha, you don't walk by Chaim Kanievsky. You stop, you get a bracha, you say shalom, whatever your things are. You acknowledge the fact that you're walking by Chaim Kanievsky, and then you continue to wherever you have to go. That's your parents. You don't just drive by your parents. That's always a mayor's lot of its level sensitivity that I would like to think, I aspire to shape the way I view what parents are.
Just like that, you were able to, take something, implement something in your life that you had from one of your subjects.
I wish I could implement more of Mayor Zlotowitz. I'm just not that so efficient, and so I'm just not like that. He was something. Look what he built. I spoke today by the yard site in art school, and I said that I was there that first year, close to Gedalia as well. The man, think about this. The man was larger than life. He really did everything himself, and he was the details man. Where else do you see that someone died? And by the end of Shiva, seamlessly, the company goes on. Where the biggest player in the whole building is gone, and suddenly we have Nelson Sherman, Gedalia, every single one of those people,
Vice
his
President
people, Aaron, they moved in. That means now you realize what a leader he erst was. When you were saying that this man, he was just empowering everybody around him to be Vaharaya, he pulled out.
Wow.
So he died suddenly. It wasn't like anybody's. There was a plan in place, and it took Gedalia about a year tops. And look what art school's never been bigger, Baruch Hashem. And so you see the leadership of this man. You look back and you say retroactively. It's a tremendous Rebbe word, right? Retroactively. Yeah, they get Rebbe say retroactively. They get like you do your first seed program, you learn like retroactive. You have that one word. You look back Lamafreya, you said facade.
Yeah,
it's Lamafreya. You look back Lamafreya, you say look at Meir Zlotowitz's. You see the humility, and again, Rabbi Sherman Kanana the man is not young. He's in the second stage of his 80s, I would say. And look at him, look what he's doing, and look at Guy, and look at all those people, what they're doing. So I wish I could say that it impacted me. I'm not a Meir Zlotowitz.
Would you say there is maybe a story that sticks out to you from your research, let's say, of the book Just Love Them, which, I don't know, it maybe I'm off by saying it's maybe one of your more popular books that you put out or well
it's among... It's up there. Yeah, it's more. I think bestsellers are.
I think it kind of created a movement.
I would hope.
I would hope too. I think, like, what's something that, through your research and putting that book together, that just you think about that blew your mind.
The thing I think about all the time is, what do you want from your kids when you were their age? You're doing the same thing, not just the comment, but what it reflects, the kind of way of looking at your kid with an ayin taiva. It's not, there's a lot of negativity from the book. People get up and say, oh, just love them. It's not true. You have to discipline. It was never just love them. It's just love them. It's not just love them. It's a different niggin. And what that means is, of course, sometimes you have to discipline your kids, and their parents still, in 2022, who will hit their kids if they have to, and they're coming from a Messiah. It's a very holy way in Klal Yisrael to gently dispense that kind of. There are people who do that. As long as they're loving their kids when they do it. The people who discipline and people who have to have consequences. It would never meant just love them. That means it's all good. I love you, Shefla. It's okay. I'm looking away. That's not what it means. But just make sure that whatever you're doing is governed by love. And if your kid knows you love them, then they're okay with that also. And it's only going to lead to productive places. Right. So it's just love them. Make sure that whatever route you're taking now comes from a place of love. That's why that story meant so much to me.
Where did the title come from? Like, how'd that come about?
It's a story. Rabbi Trank was... Rabbi came to Rabbi Trank. Rabbi Trank was already sick with his final illness. It was hard for him to talk. So he said, I'm becoming a Rabbi, and it's a very tough school, and the class they gave me is their hardest class. Should I take it? Should I not take it? What advice would you give me? So Rabbi Trank said to him, just love them. Just love them. And that meant something to me in the Yated, actually. The week he died, the cover was Just Love Them. And I didn't know I was writing a book even at that point, but the word stuck with me.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm curious more, going back to that question about your process, when you get to know your subjects, before you sit down to write, like immerse yourself in interviews, you seem somehow to really capture their essence and put it down on paper. I'm curious how that process evolves. How do you get to know them so well?
people think that the hardest part of being a good writer is being a writer. It's not. The hardest part of being, I wouldn't say a good writer, but being a writer is being a good listener. You have to really be able to go and just listen to what people are saying. And often you can go into an interview and you'll say, I'm writing about your Rebbe, grandfather, uncle, neighbor. And the person's going to tell you 2 hours of things that seem completely unconnected. Oh, we moved to the building in 1964. Really, we wanted to buy across the street, but we couldn't get it. And the thing, and zoning, and my wife, my mother, and you're going to go crazy, right? But you realize that you need to listen to those 2 hours, because if they're not comfortable with you, they're not going to tell you the thing you really came to know. Right. No one, you don't just press a button on a human being and they give you that story that you want. That's not how it goes. People are people. And it's really much more about the relationship than about the substance of what they're going to say. So until that relationship is formed, you have no chance of getting the stories you want to get to. So when you want to understand a person, you have to be ready to listen to the people around them on their terms. So it takes a lot of time.
I think it's important to double click on what you just said, in that in your line of work, you need to wait those 2 hours to get that nugget, to get that story, to pluck that out.
People don't know that. I tell that to young writers all the time. I'm like, you know, that's why I feel very hard for female writers. It's unfairly stacked against them, because most of them have other. That's what I mean that my wife is special. I'm out. I'm in New York. I'm not. You can't do that if you're not completely confident that your home is going to be run when in your absence. Women don't always. So they have their 3 hours and they have to get their ride back. It's very hard to do that with a schedule. Right.
The point I want to make, though, bringing that nakuda outside of your context for our listeners, if they want to have a relationship with their child and they want their child to share that thing that you need to connect with your child about, you're also going to have to sit down for a couple hours and make sure that there is that context.
I wish I would listen to my kids the way I listen to people. You're right.
Right?
I have a rule with my sons. Montreal's a big hockey city. So I tell my kids, I say, listen, I'm going to hear about the goal you scored, but start from one play before. I can't listen to 9 plays. You know, my son comes up, he goes like, Taz, so the puck was here. So Shmuley was here and Yankee was here. So I said, listen to me. The play. Tell me what you did in the 30 seconds before your goal. I'm listening. But more than that, no. But you're right. It would be nice if I would listen to the people in my life the way I listen to interviewees. You're right.
I'm curious.
But you guys know that's from yourself.
Right.
You just have to let people talk sometimes to get to the thing you really want to get to. No one's going to answer you right away if you don't let them go a little bit.
Right. I'm curious what you think of the current makeup of the From Media world, of what it is today, and maybe what it could be better. Or
I think
once we're on
there's a lot
subject.
of
what
a hard left turn there. That was good.
What?
I'm kidding.
I think there's room for improvement. I think there's room for improvement. I think we could be doing a better job. I think that a lot of From Media, particularly digital From Media, has become a place of, for lack of a better term, clickbait. And I understand why it's so. It drives clicks, which drives income. And Jewish income is holy. And itself, Jewish income is a very valuable thing. That's how people make Shabbos and pay tuition and make chasnas for their kids and say, look, we're cheating the people because we're not telling them a true story. This is going to sound self-serving, but so be it. I started, maybe you're familiar, maybe not, with some friends. It's really a WhatsApp status, and Amir Hashem, it'll probably be on social media and perhaps a website as well. It's called MKY. I took a step back from Mishpacha recently for this reason. This was a passion. I realized I'm 46 years old.
MKY, Mi Ka'amcha Yisrael.
Yeah, you knew that yourself. You got people don't always know, and I was like, we're not telling the truth, because if you're going to open up a lot of the From websites, I'm not saying all of them. I'm not even saying any of them. I'm saying some of them, some of the times, not as a rule. Here's what you're gonna know: the Nazis are in every city in America, and they're coming to take over our shuls. Gera is fighting with Gera, Satmar with Satmar, Babov with Babov, and the price of gas is going to make it impossible for you to visit your in-laws. Probably is not the end of the world, but visit whoever it is you are. It's really, the world is coming to an end. And did you know that this Hasidic guy was arrested because he Section 8 fraud? That's a lot of what From Media turned into, and that's an outrage. Because do you know what From life is like? Wake up in the morning and walk on Central Avenue. Here's what you're going to see. You're going to see a Chaverim guy changing another guy's tire. You're going to see a guy davening Shemay Esrei, who, when you walked by him a minute ago, you wouldn't have even think, and you look at him davening Shemay Esrei, you say, wow, where does this guy get the ability to daven? That way you're going to see people in the store lining up that they need Yevamis Chelik Gimel, because the daf is starting Yevamis Chelik Gimel, and if they don't have their Gemara, how are they going to be in the daf? There's a reality that no one's telling that story. No one's telling the story of This, there is no demographic, there's no community, there's no family like the one that we're in. The global, vibrant from community. When I say from community, I don't mean Lakewood, I don't mean Mir, I don't mean Lubavitch, I don't mean YU, I don't mean Sam, I mean everybody. I mean people who are Shai Torah Mitzvahs. It's a big tent called people who keep Shulchan Aruch. That's from Yidden. Shulchan Aruch Jews. People who, before they make a decision, say, what does the Mishnah Berurah say? That's the whole definition for it. It doesn't really make a difference what kind of hat you wear or whether or not you eat Chalav Yisrael. It does make a difference if you eat Chalav Yisrael or not, what kind of hat you wear.
In the definition that you have.
In the terms of, like you said, nuance. Everything makes a difference, of course. I don't mean it doesn't make a difference. I mean, it doesn't make a difference in being termed. And no one was telling that story. Not just Mika Amcha Yisrael, someone changed my tire. Mika Amcha Yisrael, on our status we try very hard not to make it a paparazzi thing. It exploded, Baruch Hashem. I didn't expect so many people. I started on my own WhatsApp status. Step back. I never did WhatsApp statuses. In COVID, I was home, and I have somebody who's a big inspiration to me. It happens to be my mechotan, my son-in-law's father, Rabbi Groner. He has a yeshiva here in the Five Towns. And he pushed me a lot. I had never said shiurim publicly, and he has this thing through his yeshiva to say, I didn't want to do it, but it was COVID, I was home. He said, what do you lose by giving people a chizuk? I asked my rabbi, he said, I didn't think I had that much to give. He told me to do it, so I started to do it. And I started to realize that people follow statuses, and people need inspiration. So my own personal status was very much about self-promotion, always, and maybe cynical jokes.
Little cynicism.
A little cynicism, always, because, and trying to enchazek people, music, things. The aspiration was obviously what you were doing. You were the first on this game and the best in the real. But I didn't have access to what you had access to, and I didn't have a team. It was just stuff that I saw myself. A lot of the stuff was stuff I got from Meaningful Minute. And I realized that there's the mindset of people is different than it was. Not everyone's going to read magazines and books anymore, but a 30-second clip might be able to speak to them. So 2 years after COVID, I realized that this is something I could do globally. So I just put on my own status, and I found Hashem sent me partners who have a much better understanding of that world than I do. And like I said, it exploded. It started to grow, and people keep saying the same things. Thank you. This refreshes me. For the first time, I can give my son or my daughter the phone for 3 minutes, and they come back saying, this is my family, Ashreinu. This is what I belong to. So it was just, yesterday we had a series of Achnas Sefer Torahs. For whatever reason, people send in, we have people in Johannesburg and in London and in Antwerp and in Montreal and in Israel. And somebody wrote to me, I thought it was like a little silly, like, well, again, the same things. It's Achnas Sefer Torah, okay? There's no story here. I like stories. I want to know the story. I want to see about the boys who put tefillin on somebody, and I want to see Avram Fried when the mic went out in the middle of a concert and there's no sound, and he's a chassid, so he's using this moment to elevate the people and to make the band feel good and whatever. That's the stuff I want to tell. I don't want to talk Achnas Sefer Torah. That's paparazzi. That's picture pages. And somebody writes, I can't tell you how good it made me feel to see Achnas Sefer Torahs in all these communities, from far right Hasidim to Dati Lumi, Moshav, and Eretz Yisrael, and the joy is the same. And the scroll is precisely the same in every single one of them. Under everything, under the clothing, and under the accents, and under the inflections, and under the architecture, there's a velvet. And under that velvet is what? The same psukim written in the exact same ways they've been written for the same 3,337 years, I think it is, whatever it is. Precisely. That's Ashreinu. So I was like, oh, wow, thank you for that opportunity to tell that story. What are we rejoicing with? Why are Jews dancing in the streets? With a scroll. Because that's who we are, because we understand that that's our eternity, that's our oxygen, that's who we are, that's our team, that's what we rally around.
So it seems like this next chapter.
So this makes me, the Emker is my passion. Yeah, that's something that
this is your next chapter.
I'm not writing the biography on Yisroel Besser. I don't know.
You're
I know that I asked, Mishpacha, I owe them everything. Particularly Mr. Shana Friedman, Ali Paleh, the owner, and Mr. Shana Friedman, who taught me how to write and taught me not only how to be an effective writer, she taught me everything, really. She's probably my biggest single influence in being a good writer. Books and everything. I gave me the opportunities. I said I need time off. Just till the Yom Tovim, I need to throw myself into things so this is just a personal hobby of mine. But it's everything to me. Tell your kids that story. Could I say follow the status? Could I give you the number?
Sure.
Is that okay? Please.
We'll put the number on the screen right now.
Oh, baby. 845-330-3444. 845-330-3444. Add MKY status. It's just the story I want to tell. It's the story that others weren't telling. That means if you're telling a story about machlaikas, now 1 second, this is an important disclaimer. Sometimes sad stories have to be told, sometimes tragic stories, and sometimes even sensational stories have to be told. People have to know if there's something they have to be protected from, somebody they have to be protected from. I'm not saying I don't want to be the one to tell that story, but I understand that those stories have to be told. I don't think there's ever a reason to tell a story about a machlaikas in a Hasidic court and an injunction that it's not for media. Then you're betraying the mission which you've chosen. The mission is for us is to talk about how lucky we are to be. There's enough other people who hate us outside of our community. There's enough other people pointing fingers that we don't have to do that to ourselves. So there's no reason to share those stories. If you have to know them, for the people who have to know them, of course they have to know them. I'm not here to preach to anybody what you have to tell your kids or your constituents or your mispalim. But for media, has to go tell those stories. You became the New York Post. You became a tabloid. So go read the Post, which does a better job. What are we doing? We like lost our way.
It's crazy how that happens.
You know you've written about this. That you've written about this publicly in Mishpacha. That what you understand how it happens because you start thinking about clicks, right, which drives income. So you lose your judgment.
Well, how do we get people to?
Yeah, what's the solution?
How do we get people to
frame
be
the issue?
No,
Have a Rebbe. Have a Rebbe. That's the only solution. I don't have another solution because I'm certainly not somebody, but I have a Rebbe. And I've given up. And this is just I don't want to say pet peeve, but people, I interview people my whole life. And I say, I'm just curious, do you have a Rebbe? Who's your Rebbe? So they say, oh, so-and-so. I said, did he ever tell you anything that was hard for you? Or he's just your Rebbe because his picture's in your sukkah? That's not a Rebbe. That's not. That's very nice. It's beautiful. But you're not going to tell me that Chaim Kanievsky is your Rebbe because he's not your Rebbe. Your Rebbe is somebody, if you can't give me one example of something he told you to do that was hard for you to swallow or hard for you to follow, or you were like, really? Then he's not your Rebbe. You have to tell me something that he told you in your life that you're like, okay, that's what he said. That's a Rebbe. There's no other way.
I'm more, curious on, I hear the issue that you're bringing up and, me and you have spoken about this and I've written about this. How do we get the public? You mentioned the clicks is what drives money and that's why it continues. How do we get the public to want to see good stuff?
Again, I can't say look at my status, but look at MKY. I promise you it's addictive. You're going to go to sleep at night.
But it's also the machlek, reading about the terrible things are also like, it also gives people a rush and it gives them a...
I promise you this will give you a positive rush. I promise you. Guaranteed or your money back.
Money back?
I'll bet. I'm telling you, check. You'll read the stories and you'll say, wow, and this is me. And most of the stories there are just about regular people, not any more or less than anybody in this room. It's just regular people, but you don't realize what the life of a Jew is like. You don't realize from when a Jew wakes up in the morning and washes Negelwasser, Lubavitcher Chassid, you probably watch Negelwasser at your bed, you should if you're a Lubavitcher Chassid. Nachamendel, right?
Yeah.
You know that the Rebbe said that a Yid can't put his feet on the floor till he watches Negelwasser. If you carry the Rebbe's name...
I walk with my hands.
Could we do the Negelwasser challenge right now? He doesn't watch Negelwasser by his bed.
While calling your mother.
Under my bed?
While calling your mother.
By the way, I drive down past my parents' block on the way here every day. I'm like,
Nachi?
I have to go take Broadway
You didn't
now.
know what you were going to get to.
I have to now watch Negelwasser in my bed, drive on Broadway, and start drinking coffee.
It's a lot.
I think that, God willing, I think it's amazing what you're doing with MKY. And I think it, hopefully it starts a movement with other people who are involved. And I think we can't go without saying that the other organizations or companies that are involved in writing news stories and involved in the news and in the Jewish world, they exist. They have a tremendous amount of reach, and I think they have a tremendous achrayus. And we're not looking for their demise. We're not asking for them to fall down.
I'm not preaching to them. And they've done 1 second. There isn't a firm publication or website who hasn't done unbelievable things. It goes without saying. They're not all bad. Chas v'shalom.
Right, no.
I just think that at a certain point, you forget why you started the thing you started, and it becomes about other things, about keeping ahead, especially when there's competition. So you lose your judgment a little bit. And I think that a lot of from media, the diet it was feeding us was reminiscent of what you can get from secular media, but in a much it became sensationalist, and again, in a very scary way, in a very unhealthy way. Why so much hand wringing? Why? Can I say a 30-second part? I'm not going to overdo it. Whatever the point is, my Rebbe was saying last Shabbos that the Meraglim came back. They had real data reports. They had real intel that you can't go to Eretz Yisrael. You really shouldn't go. There's no reason in the world that you should be able to go to Yisrael and think, do you know the prognosis? Do you know the numbers? Do you know the demographics? Do you know the chances of war? Do you know blah, 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 blah? But they were wrong, because when you love something and you're connected and you believe, you just, Alei Nala, we're going to go. We're going to be okay. It comes back to the Trank doctrine too. Stop listening so much. Close your ears a little bit to the negativity. Close your ears to the naysayers. Close your ears to the statistics, because it's baloney. It's not the truth. We're Yidden. We operate in a different sphere. The whole thing makes no sense that we're still here. The whole world wants us dead since forever, and we're still doing it. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to be in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago with the Lakewood thing, with the Adira Torah. I wasn't planning to go. I live in Montreal, but I was here for a simcha. My boys were off from Yeshiva. They wanted to go. I was so grateful that I was there. Now, this is a flex. Rabbi Yisroel Jacobson.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Rabbi Yisroel Jacobson's father founded the Algemeine Journal, where Nachi's grandfather of Nissen and him going back brothers.
Yeah.
Going back generations, the Gordons and the Jacobsons. He was there. It's on the dais.
Really?
So I asked him the next day what he thought about it. He said, you know what was amazing about it? He's such an open-minded person, in the sense, good open-minded, that he's so open to hearing and learning about everything.
Like a sponge,
He's
yeah.
really something. Besides that, he's brilliant and eloquent and talented. He said that, did you see the light in the eyes of the 17-year-old boys? That's what it was like. It was half you go to a ball game, game 7, if you know, hockey, baseball, whatever your sport is, if you're a sports fan. And people who aren't even such big fans are just consumed by it. It's game 7, it's extra innings, it's overtime, whatever it is. Everybody in the stadium's on their feet all of a sudden. Even people who couldn't tell you the names of the players 3 weeks ago, they're all in. They all jumped in. Those Bachrim, the road trip Bachrim, the after Zman Tefillah Bachrim, you had to see their eyes. It was just about Torah. There was really nothing else on the agenda besides Torah, and talking about the good that Torah brings to the world, that every time somebody sweats over a Taisus, what they're doing to the world, and how lucky people are who could write out a check to be part of that. That was really the idea. It was, imagine the Chabad Kines HaShluchim, which is incredible experience, about Torah, right? That type of vibe. It was so, I don't know, what were we talking about? I don't even know how we ended up here.
Crickets. I have no idea.
You have no idea. Okay, good. But you get the point that the stats, there's so much to, we're still here, the Meraglim, right? I'm saying stop listening to the numbers. Stop listening to, you saw there to 20,000 people. So Davi Zafia, a friend of mine,
another status asking.
Another 5 towns legend, and a good friend of mine says that the dais at the Adira Torah event had more people than Rabban Kotler had in his whole Eilam HaTorah in America. There was like a 6-level day. It's probably a couple hundred rosh yeshivas there. So Rabban Kotler started the yeshiva in America. There were less people in his yeshiva than on the day 70 years later. Look, do you think that there was any statistician?
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 That's a word, yeah. You're a writer. You should know.
Statistician is a word, yes.
I'm weak. And statistician?
Statistician.
There's no statistician in America who would have told you that there's an American Eilam HaTorah in 2022 that's going to look like this. There's no way. So why are we listening? That's my only problem with media. You're giving into that. Our whole existence makes no sense. So look at the guys changing the tires. Look at the guys, whatever people are doing, Yemam V'Laila in every from community, living in such a high plane. We don't even stop to look what the day of a Yid looks like. I want to celebrate those stories.
And you should. And in Rich Hashem, you should continue, because I think that makes a huge difference.
I just hope we can expose people to the real truth about who we are, what's really going on in the film world.
Surely. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now. Let's plug a few projects that you got going on. Something maybe you just put out, something that's coming soon.
Just was lucky enough to put out a book on Shabbos.
Yes.
That makes me so happy, that book. It's such a nice book, Baruch Hashem.
I should have brought it. I have it. You should have brought it with me, yeah.
It would have been a nice cover, actually. It's a painting.
For the intro, Rich Hashem, I'll have it. It's a beautiful cover.
Thank you. It's
Don't judge a book by it, though.
It's
if you're going to judge a book by its cover, it should be that one.
Nice. Well done.
Put that on the back.
What happened is, I had done a book on Nishmas a couple of years ago. That was a Baruch Hashem, went very nicely. People are looking to connect in that way, and feeds in a lot to thank you Hashem, and to that whole affirmation and relating to the Rebbeinu Shalom in that positive way. You done Rebbes Zakatinsky, any of you?
Yeah, me.
He's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
I heard him for the first time this year.
Last night with him.
Heard about the good convention for the first time in my life this year. I was just blown away that the people who know that much and are able to articulate it.
Zakatinsky is a legend.
Right, but that's another thing. There's so many of those people. Look at the world. Look what we're producing. Look at the voices.
Crazy. Where's Mashiach, though?
Where is Mashiach? right?
What do we need more? What do we need more of to bring Mashiach?
Lego Vasa. Maybe.
Can you imagine? But you know what? That's a very deep part. Like, I once heard a thing from Yisroel Besser and Tisha B'Av, like, the B'shvili never olam. Like, it doesn't mean that like the world is created for me, so I get to cut the line and be, get the ice cream first, or I get to be selfish. The world is created for me. It means like maybe if you don't put on tefillin tomorrow, maybe Mashiach won't come, or maybe the world will be destroyed. Like if you don't start washing Egelwasser under your bed, like maybe Mashiach won't come.
The significance of every yid and every action of that one yid is the whole cosmos, the whole world. That's for sure true.
I gotta get my wife to order one of those Nagelwasser things now.
Nice.
Do you think you could find one in 5 towns? No, not possible.
Right downstairs.
Are you related to the legend from Tuvia's? Don't you have some kind of
That's
connection
true.
over there?
It's my wife's grandfather.
I think that
my grandfather.
Tuvia himself has them in his store. I can speak to him to arrange it to you as part of your support. Get Kyle a little
A
check.
stipend?
Yeah, if you want, I could speak to him, Nachi.
I'll get an earful first from him before I get it,
Most delightful person to get an earful from.
Tuvia
No
Rabbi.
Hanifa, no baloney. Tell it like it is, Tuvia. One of the greats.
Yes.
Want to hear a story about Tuvia?
Sure.
A friend of mine was collecting for a chassan. So he went into Tuvia's. He's like, the chassan has no father, no mother. Rahman al-Islan. Kala has no money. I would like to know what you could do about a chassan shas. Could you help? Could you give? Tuvia Rabberg. Tuvia says, I'm going to cry. Mikam Yisrael. Tuvia doesn't look like no yeshiva, no frock. Yeah. Tuvia says, I'm closing my eyes. I don't want to see what you're taking. I'm going into the back of the store for 5 minutes. Take whatever you want from the store. I don't want to know. Because if I know, I might. Why do you take that? That was so much money. I'm not looking. I'm going to come out in 5 minutes. Take. And he went into the back. Take what you want from the store. Anything you want in the store, take. Don't tell me.
Wow.
A regular Jew. Right? You look at him. It's just a guy.
That's Zaidi.
Right? But that's every yid, really. Tuvia
Yeah.
special. Tuvia Taka Tzaddik. People know that. But those are Jews. Those are the stories I want to tell.
Yeah. It's funny. It's something that me
I'm
and my
not
Lord-
looking. Take whatever you want from the store. Who does that? Jews do that.
You didn't do that.
Yeah.
I think like you're so
And your
it's
soul
so
is
true.
uplifted from hearing it, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's you also. Because you recognize that, okay, that's something I would want to do,
And it leads to more goodness.
right?
It leads to
Right.
you looking out for
So
those
why
moments.
why shouldn't media be telling those stories? Now, again, I get that you can only tell those stories. The whole world's not a candy store. I get that. That sometimes you need a diet that's wholesome. And sometimes you have to hear the things you have to hear. But we need to hear that. There's nobody telling those stories.
We need to hear that. We need to see it also. Yeah. It's so true.
I'm
It's a
working
shame.
so Shabbos. We were talking about Shabbos. So I had done Nishmas, and there's a tefillah called Rebbes on Friday night between Shalom Aleichem and Neshes Chayil. If people say it, it's like Nishmas level, but not everybody says it. I didn't realize when I embarked on the project that many people don't say it. Chassidim for sure say it. My father doesn't say it. But I like to read it myself, so I wanted to do this, and it expanded. Shalom Aleichem, Neshes Chayil, Kiddush, and then it turned into a whole other part, which is benching the kids and lighting candles for the woman. Which is, I didn't realize myself the potency and the power. It's a generation that people struggle with their children. I wish more people understood their own potential, especially at that time of week. Side the men and side the woman. That led to this book, which is Baruch Hashem, and Shabbos. There's not a word that makes people smile, like when you say Shabbos. Wherever they come from, whenever you say Shabbos, and people say, oh, Shabbos. Shabbos.
It's almost here. For those listening, maybe it's Motzei Shabbos, so
Yeah.
it's the furthest point from Shabbos.
There were Yidden who used to say that the Sudas Malav Malka is celebrating their Shabbos is 6 days a week. 6 days away, sorry. Stalin Chassidim used to say that. We sit down to the Suda after Shabbos, say, okay, Shabbos is coming in 6 days.
Rabbi Joe Rosenfeld, he says, that's like each day is in regards to Shabbos. Yeah,
right.
he
Counting
always-
down to Shabbos.
Momo, did we miss anything? Anything you want to ask? I think we got to wrap up here. We've been here for a long time,
You guys are great at this. I have to tell you, as an interviewer,
Yeah, I was nervous.
you guys
'cause
are great.
Thank you.
You're great. It felt like no time at all passed. I loved it.
Love it.
Thanks.
I'd
love to hear
I
one more.
was hesitant to do this, right? I was
Of course
scared to
you
do
were.
this.
How long do you think we're in already so far?
45 minutes.
$1.20.
Hour 20.
What's normal length for this?
No, around this.
It felt like no time at all, honestly. I thought it was going to be like the dentist. I really came here.
You thought I was gonna get in
I thought you were going to say it's really, I don't know. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't
Thanks
there.
for the high hopes, really.
And No, 1 second. Stop. That's not fair. I came.
Yeah,
I
you
came.
did.
I said maybe I'll do it, but I like it. But you guys are so good. You really,
Thank you.
I could learn from you.
I have one topic I'd love to hit on. Make it a little bit longer. You wrote a book about Moshe Reichman, Zechron Livracha, and our generation of Balabatim are experiencing. This is a subject that we discussed a little bit with Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, and he put a beautiful spin on the positive reality that, you know, it's a Zman of Geula that is indicative of the wealth that we have, that we need to be very, very bright. We have to have big, big hasagas. And that's why our generation is experiencing such tremendous wealth and financial success. What can you take from your becoming a Talmud of Moshe Reichman to offer to today's Balabatim on the responsibility of the people that are bestowed such...
You just answered the question, so I got tremendous feedback to that question. I wrote this, that everything is basharat, and it was very frustrating to me, this project, Moshe Reichman in particular, because I started on the book 7 years ago. I like to do books in a year and a half for many reasons, primarily panasa reasons. Right? You want to structure your income a certain way, but not only because of panasa, but because I don't want to get bogged down in a project. You want to do it, you want to hit send, and you want to move on to the next thing. It's the only way to get things done. It took me 7 years. It was frustrating for me. And I understood once it came in, I was like, oh, of course, everything is basharat. And you see that after. I was like, of course, this generation, this 2022 needed this book. The book landed on this table, communal table of tequila and charcuterie boards. Boom, right in the middle came the Moshe Reichman book. And it teaches you just use the word responsibility, that wealth is a responsibility. Like anything else is a responsibility. You know, if you have a guy in your show who has a great voice, and he never goes up to the Amud, he's cheating the people, and he's cheating himself, because the Baruch Shalom didn't give him a good voice for nothing. And if somebody has a defibrillator, Rahman al someone's having a heart attack control, and they say, I don't want to use my defibrillator now. You're a tzech, you're a murderer. Moshe Reichman understood that if the Baruch Shalom gave you money, gave it to you for a reason. It's a responsibility, and you always have to live. And I got such nice feedback from a younger generation in this neighborhood in Lakewood of people saying thank you, because they said other books you've written are nice and they're inspiring, but they're not realistic role models. I mean, I'm not becoming Rabbi Yashav or Rabbi Leib Steinman or Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky or Rabbi Trevor or Sami Rabbi. Moshe Reichman gives me realistic goals that I can aspire to, and I would even add, you don't have to have money. It's not a book for wealthy people. People didn't believe that. I wrote it on the book jacket. I'm not a wealthy person, and it impacted me in a million ways. And it's true for everybody.
Beautiful.
Yisroel Besser, thank you so much for taking your time, coming on. Any last words for the Meaningful People crew?
Thank you for having me. It was just to be here. And I wanted to say again, what a pleasure it was to watch you guys do your thing. You're really good at it. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're making me blush.
Thank you.
Don't make a redhead blush. It's just terrible. It's really, thank you.
Achi.
Chaim. Heilige Yisroel Besser. That is Refuah Shleimos, really. By the way, he was a little bit under the weather for this.
Yisroel may have edited out
a few coughs,
a number of coughing attacks.
Yeah, but I think by now we're a little bit down the road.
Yeah,
should be fine. But yeah, he mentioned this new WhatsApp status, this new thing he's part of, MKY. Really cool. Totally suggest it. Go check it out.
I was talking about it with someone actually after we recorded the episode. Yeah, and they were just like freestyling, expressing how there's so many amazing things that we do as a people. Yeah. And it would be nice for us to like publicize those things. And I was like, as a matter of fact, as a matter of Besser has that project.
And then you did a Bridge Credit ad, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just noticing the beautiful things in Klal Yisrael, you know? And I think that's really, really amazing. So go ahead and check that out. And listen, if you have WhatsApp in general, Meaningful Minutes also got a WhatsApp line. So go ahead and in the description, in the link, there'll be a link. Just hit that. Hit us up on WhatsApp. Love hearing from you. We post a lot of the clips from this podcast on the status. And like I said last week, this podcast is out there if you're from Orthodox woman, deep, meaningful conversations. Rifki Silver, Alex Fletcher, two amazing women in this world have an amazing podcast. I sit down with Shani Plotzker, Jamie Geller, or Rachel Tuchman. There's so many different women. It's almost like a Meaningful People for like exclusively for women. It's very cool. Anyways, go check that out on Apple and Spotify. And we'll be back here next week with another episode for you. Thank you. And do me a favor, one last thing.
Also, I didn't say it, and Nachi might be upset. How are you, dude?
Oh my gosh. I had like over under bets of how many times you're gonna say it. It was 1.5, so we're still good.
How are you?
Ah, there it is. Anyways, guys, please leave a review. Please leave a review. Don't make me like see you in public and then you say, hey, I listened to your podcast, and I need to say, hey, did you leave a review though? Did you leave a review? Just leave a review. Just leave a review, and you could say in the review that, hey, Nachi asked me to leave a review, so I'm leaving a review. You totally do that. But rate 5 stars, leave a review. That's how Meaningful People stay number 1 on the charts, man. That's what we're doing. That's what
Thank
we're
you,
doing.
guys.
Thank you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon. Adios, amigos.
Out.